I'd like to call to order the May 25th meeting of the Citizen Advisory Committee. First thing on our agenda is public comment. I have one speaker card from Ralph Hoffman.
Good evening. Ralph Hoffman, and I'm a retiree and shareholder of Chevron stock. And this morning at 8 o'clock began the Chevron annual meeting in their headquarters in San Ramon. I was really one of the few, if only, speaker to speak about something favorably. There were many protesters there. They were protesting about Chevron's effect on climate change and also their damage to the Amazon rainforest. But I spoke in positive terms about the November election and the need for support for our TEP, our 0.5% sales tax for transportation. I think it's time that we go to meetings, city council meetings, board of supervisors meeting, whatever, and support the 0.5% sales tax on the ballot. It takes a 2/3 vote, of course, and it'll be we need all the support we can get, particularly from people who vote, like senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm going to pass next to the approval of summary of actions. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
And a second.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then proceed next to the election of chair and vice chair. It's been my pleasure to serve as chair of this committee for the past 3 years, which I feel is a goodly term, and I will not be looking for re-election. I have, well, first, do we have a motion to appoint a new chair? I would like to move Yolanda Vega.
I second.
It's moved and seconded to appoint Yolanda as chair of the Citizen Advisory Committee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Let me just go ahead and deal this. I'm not sure which of us should do it. I have an email from Mark Roberts, who can't be here tonight, offering to serve as vice chair. Anyone else having an interest in serving as vice chair?
I'd be interested.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Isn't this committee going away this next year?
Assuming the measure passes, yes, it will be replaced by a committee of quite different composition.
Is it bound to that measure? The change?
Yeah, change is bound to that measure.
Okay.
It's part of the governance authority of that measure.
Mike, I asked the same question. However, until that happens, we need to proceed with business as usual. I think we need a motion to nominate either Mark or...
I nominate Michael Dupre.
I second that.
All those in favor of Michael Dupre being vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Put your hand down, Michael. All right, so Michael, you're You and I will serve together. I look forward to it.
The potential last year, so you'll be the last ones. We'll see.
We'll go down with the ship.
You got it.
So next on the agenda is the general business, and we're looking, if you would, at your attendance log. Any changes or any comments on it? Hearing none. The CAC meeting calendar and the CAC roster, if there are any changes. Patricia?
Yes, thank you. On June 22nd, I figured it out, sorry, thank you.
That was easy. Do that again. Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. And we have two major discussions this evening. The City of Concord's Growth Management Compliance Checklist and the county's calendar growth management checklist. So we are represented by both, and we will start with the City of Concord. And would you please introduce yourselves to the committee?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good evening. My name is Ray Kuzbari. I'm the Transportation Manager for the City of Concord. And I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the City of Concord's Measure J compliance checklist. I'd like to give just a quick statement by saying that we feel that the City of Concord complied with Measure J growth management program in the reporting period encompassing calendar years 2014 and 2015. The city adopted two general plan amendments during the reporting period. One in 2014 to adopt the downtown Concord specific plan, and the other in 2015 to update the housing element of the general plan. In both cases, the project had no effect on the city's abilities to meet the standards in the growth management element, implement action plan policies, or meet MTSOs. No significant impacts on traffic or on routes of regional significance were expected in either case. The city maintained consistency with the growth management program and implementation guide and with the adopted Central County Action Plan in calendar years 2014 and 2015. There were no actions taken by the City of Concord during the reporting period with regard to changes or modifications to the voter-approved urban limit line. At this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the committee?
Yes, I see here in the housing element that there's an estimate about 500 units of new housing that's planned for 2016. And I was wondering, I see that in the housing needs allocation that, there's definitely a need for more affordable housing in your area. Page 2.1-45. And so I was wondering, are you guys on track to hopefully fulfill some of those lower income housing needs?
Well, we certainly have the policies in our general plan to incentivize or encourage development of affordable housing. However, the city does not build those units. And I think in the report it mentioned that in 2014, 14 or 15 affordable units were basically approved for permits. And I think in 2015, we had 37 permits issued for affordable housing units. But again, we don't have the ability to build those units ourselves. So we're just providing the opportunity, and we do expect more coming to the downtown area in the next few years. I couldn't tell you for sure what the number will be, but we expect more units to be added in the downtown area in the next few years.
What's the status of the contracts for building on the Naval Weapons Station?
So on May 11, the City Council made the final selection of master developer for the Phase 1 project. And the city will be in the process of preparing a specific plan for the Phase 1 project. And that will probably occur in 2016, 2017 timeframe. I'm not sure, when construction might begin. It could be a couple of years down the road. It's hard to tell at this point. We still need for the Navy to dispose of the property, basically letting the city own the property until such a time when parcels of land is ready to be developed by the master developer. Then the land can be transferred to the developer.
Is this going to be high-density housing?
As I think it does include high-density housing for Phase 1 because it's closer to the BART station.
Do you know if how much the building trades are going to be involved?
I don't.
Mr. Kuzbari, I have a question about, it looks like proposed development downtown in that area bounded by East Street, Willow Pass, Port Chicago, and I think it's Salvio. Are you familiar with that? It appears to be mostly empty now. Is that intended for residential development?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
apartments, I suppose?
Yeah, it's high density. The high density apartments.
Is a project in the works, or is that still waiting for developers to move forward?
No, it's in the works, and it hasn't been approved yet, but it's gone through the process. The staff has reviewed all the improvement plans, and so it's very close to being approved.
Do you have an idea how many units are intended in that area?
It's 200 plus. I'm not sure if it's in a range of 220 to 230, something like that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure.
So with a lot of new units coming online, it sounds like a lot of them are high-density units. I'm curious, are you guys going to be also trying to push for instead mixed housing, mixed units? So it's like where you have both commercial and residential, or is it just mostly focusing on high-density, solely residential units?
Well, we certainly encourage mixed-use development. Ultimately, it's what developers are, what the project that they come to the city with a proposal, and ultimately they're the ones who determine what the project is going to include, if anything, any retail as well as residential. But we certainly encourage mixed-use development near the downtown. Within the downtown specific plan area, closer to BART. Sure, yeah, we certainly do.
I have one more little question. In your new building projects, are you mandating or looking down the road at mandating or providing some incentive to make sure that the new high-density housing is energy efficient or solar powered?
I don't know the answer to that question. Sorry.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight. I'm very interested in complete streets, and in 2012, maybe 2013, I was attending an event at the Public Library in Concord regarding complete streets. I was very impressed with Concord leadership and being proactive, engaging the community in implementing complete streets, and I actually wish Walnut Creek had done the same thing, but we didn't. In particular, policy T 1.9.5 discusses complete streets, and I know road diets are something a lot of people are talking about now, and in an effort to make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. Yet at the same time, there's the push for level of service. And can you speak a little bit about that conflict and how the city is going to move forward with that on a bigger street like Clayton?
Well, there is a bicycle master plan. It's also a pedestrian and access to transit plan that the city is working on. In fact, the draft report has been released for public review, and we anticipate the council reviewing the plan in September. So there are certain areas that have been identified, certain streets that have been identified in the plan for potential complete streets projects and bikeways, in some cases class 2, in some cases class 1 or class 3. So the city will stick to the plan once it's been approved. And the plan has looked at potential impacts to traffic flow, level of service, not just for traffic, but also for pedestrians as perceived by pedestrians, and how best bikeways can be accommodated along those corridors. So like I said, we will stick to the plan, and on any future improvement projects or pavement rehabilitation projects, we will ensure that complete streets projects are accommodated as well to comply with the plan.
Would you say that, again, using Clayton Road as an example, it's a major street, would you say that a road diet for that road is a possibility, given the fact that it would increase safety for everyone, even if it neutral or slightly negatively affects level of service?
Well, Clayton Road is a major primary arterial in the county. It's a part of it is a route of regional significance. While we recognize the need to improve bicycling conditions and pedestrian amenities, by the same token, we need to move traffic. The average daily traffic volumes on Clayton Road are one of the highest in the county, and we have cut through traffic, a lot of it, from East County and other communities as well. So I don't believe the plan includes a road diet per se on Clayton Road, but we are looking at other ways of providing bike lanes without taking out travel lanes in a way that would provide for safe bicycle facilities. One of the things that I've been pushing for is to make sure that as we provide bike lanes in the future on major streets, we don't just stripe the bike lane. We need to make sure that it's buffered as well, for safety, obviously for safety reasons. So again, the plan does look at Clayton Road, but not in terms of road diet.
I have a comment, question, comment. I noticed that you implemented in 2012, 2013, a rodeo program. Actually, it was a 3-day program to teach safety, pedestrian and bicycle safety to middle school students. Is that an ongoing program, or you just did that in 2012?
Is that something that the city did, or maybe 511 Contra Costa?
511.
511 Contra Costa. Yeah, that's not a city-run. It wasn't a city-run program, but we were aware of it, and we encouraged 511 to work with school principals and provide educational programs to the schools.
That would probably go hand in hand with your concern about having those not only marked bicyclists, but also buffer that area for safety.
Certainly, they're all interrelated.
And just looking at this table 1, page 6, I noticed Concord's progress in meeting regional housing needs has absolutely nothing for from low to extremely low income. How are you going to ameliorate that?
Well, again, we do have policies in place in our housing element to encourage the environment, to create the environment to encourage affordable housing development. But again, we don't have, it doesn't mean the city can go out and build those units. It depends on proposals put forward by developers. But we do encourage that, and in terms of the city's compliance, we are compliant with the state law as far as doing everything we can to address the regional needs for affordable housing. So we are compliant with those requirements.
I presume that the work at the Naval Weapons Station should fill a lot of that then.
Well, that's certainly a consideration, yeah.
The Clayton Road, Dinkinger Road, Treat Boulevard interchange improvements, I understand that you started construction, then had to suspend for a while due to some unforeseen circumstances. Is that getting back on track?
We're trying. First, there were some issues with underground tanks that were discovered in terms of the property owner not having removed those tanks, and the understanding that the city had was that all the cleanup had taken place, but then we discovered that that wasn't completely true. So we had to put the project on hold to ensure that the property owner got rid of those tanks. But then after that, PG&E decided, actually they didn't decide, but they told us that some of the areas that we are undergrounding, they said that they need more conduit in the joint trench, and that was not revealed during design. And suddenly they had that requirement, and that was a costly requirement. And we said that should be your responsibility, and they said no. So we've been talking to the contractor about that, and trying to figure out a way to bridge the gap in terms of funding, but we're also pursuing some other options with PG&E to basically influence their decision on this issue. So we're hoping to get back on track soon.
I would imagine that your city is perhaps interested in the fact that it's considered one of the most affordable cities now in the East Bay, and that people are now looking to move to Concord because there is affordable housing there. So I heard an advertisement on CNN, I think. No, can't be CNN, Channel 2. You know, look at Concord for businesses and to move there for affordable housing. So my suspicion is that your need allocation would probably need to be revised upward when you start seeing people moving to your area, because I had an opportunity to visit downtown Concord a week ago. It's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. It's walkable. It has a community feel about it, family, and just felt very, very safe. So you guys look like you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So normally what we do is we ask the representative of the City of Concord to make a motion to approve. We don't have a representative for the City of Concord. Hint, hint, go back and let them know we need somebody here for that. Who would like to make a
I'll move
motion?
to approve, recommend approval of the
Stephen?
City of Concord
Okay,
checklist.
Mike. And so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So congratulations. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time.
Next on the agenda, we have our discussion for the county's calendar 2014-2015 program compliance checklist, and we do have staff here. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. My name is Robert Sarmiento, and I'm a planner with the Transportation Planning section of Contra Costa County. I'm here tonight to present the county's Growth Management Program compliance checklist for the 2014 and 2015 reporting period. The county believes its checklist meets the requirements called for by CCTA. What I'm going to do first is, provide some highlights of the county's checklist, and then after, take any questions from any of the members of the CAC. First thing I want to mention is any general plan amendments in the reporting period. The county processed 5 of them. The first one was a Doherty Valley specific plan amendment for a new elementary school. Second one was a Heritage Point mixed use project out in North Richmond. Another one was called QLC-Pomona Street, or also known as Rolfe Park subdivision out in Crockett. Fourth one was Driftwood Estates out in Bay Point. And finally, the last one is called Pantages Bay out near Discovery Bay. Next, I'm going to talk about the county's housing element. In your packet, Attachment C includes the county's annual housing element progress report for the past 2 available years, and also the State Housing and Community Developments letter confirming the county's compliance with the housing element law. Within the progress report, there's a number of affordable housing programs identified that the county has been implementing to address housing needs within the unincorporated county. Next, I'm going to talk about the capital improvement program. In 2014, the county adopted the latest Capital Road Improvement and Preservation Program, which identifies cost and schedule for the county's road improvement projects for the years 2013 through 2020. In addition, Attachment E of the checklist identifies the county's CIP for parks and sheriff's facilities for the years 2016 through 2022. Finally, the county has an adopted ULL, and within the reporting period, there were no changes or modifications to it. That concludes my brief highlight of the checklist, and I'm available to take any questions that you have. Thank you.
What questions do we have for him?
So I'm a little worried. There's no questions. So.
I might have something maybe you can answer. I don't know. Randy and I have been talking a little bit. We've been discussing autonomous vehicles, and I know CCTA is involved in this. And I'm wondering, and having talked to some NRG EVgo representatives, they're expecting to have, maybe by the end of the year, one charging station every 25 miles from Tahoe to Monterey. That seems aggressive, but as you all may know, NRG EVgo was spawned out of a lawsuit with Enron, and they're building electric vehicle infrastructure. And I wanted to find out, and that's why I asked the City of Concord that one question: where is the county going as far as transportation infrastructure, electric vehicle charging stations, providing for energy efficient housing, and other things like that?
So when you say with the charging stations, are you saying like along major routes, or just in general, like spread out?
Major routes, county facilities, county-controlled facilities, incentives, the whole ball game. It's rolling.
Okay. Along the major routes, I'm not aware of any like projects or programs that the county is involved with to implement EV charging stations. Regarding, in new development, the county has adopted some like policies to include EV charging stations in residential development. And you said the other question was the other part to it.
Well, solar power. Doing the county facilities, do they have solar power? Can they install solar power?
That I'm not sure I can answer. So, but if I could go back and find out and let you know. Okay.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Jamar Stamps. I'm a senior planner with Contra Costa County Transportation Planning Section. I'm here to support Robert tonight. I'm actually passing the baton for this responsibility, so I too was nervous that you guys didn't have any questions. But that's a great question, though. I know, and I appreciate that. This is his initiation. But your question is a good one, committee member Dupre. What Robert was getting at last year, if any of you recall, the state passed legislation to require electric vehicle charging stations for all types of development. So anything from single-family residential, multiple family, and non-residential. The extent of that law requires certain developments, I think it's just residential, to provide the basic infrastructure for electric vehicle charging. The county, the state legislation allows local jurisdictions to modify those requirements if they're more stringent. So the county went ahead and took the first step to do that last year and took that legislation a step further.
Do you know the name of that legislation? Senate bill, Assembly bill?
Yeah, it's SB. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking, but I have that information on hand. I actually helped write the ordinance, and I can get that to staff after the
I'd
meeting.
love to have that.
Certainly. And I'll also provide a link to the county's new ordinance code. We updated our California Green Building Code to require more stringent standards. So, for example, in the state legislation, multiple family residential development projects of 17 units or more are required to provide only the basic infrastructure for electric vehicle charging. And what that means is they have to provide the rated conduit and the outlet to the area where the vehicle will be charged.
An extra dryer outlet.
Pretty much, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, rated the same wattage. But the county, what we did is decided to require that infrastructure be installed and also provide the actual unit, the electric vehicle charging station, in some multiple family residential cases.
What about incentives for upgrades?
That would be with our weatherization program, and whether they have any policies or incentives right now, I don't know off the top of my head, but again, that's something that I could find out and get that back to the committee.
Thank you very much. That's
Sure.
a lot of good stuff.
And your question about solar power, actually, the county's Department of Conservation and Development, where Robert and I work, we do have solar power on that building. It was recently renovated before we moved in 2012, and it is LEED certified by LEED. And our Public Works Department recently installed solar canopies in their parking lot and bioretention gardens. So they've moved very fast to implement that technology as well. And so other facilities in the county are probably going to try to follow suit.
Following my questions from the last city, I see that in the housing element that the number of houses for above moderate income were like over by 533. So it sounds like that the number of houses being developed in unincorporated areas in the above moderate income are growing rapidly versus in the other areas. And I was wondering, is the county helping to incentivize the moderate and low and very low income housing?
So the county does have several programs in our housing element, and I believe in your packet you'll see a list of certain programs that encourage moderate to low income housing. Our housing division works very hard to make sure that those units are implemented on time and consistent with the state requirements and our regional housing needs assessment numbers. But again, as stated before, it's all about the market. Concord staff alluded to that. Short of picking up a hammer and nails, there's really not much a local agency can do other than to, basically create policy or change policy to incentivize that kind of development. And as you mentioned, fortunately for the county, it's worked out in our favor. Again, as we've worked very hard, but in some areas of the county, it may fall short a little bit, but by no means should that be completely the onus of the local jurisdiction. So thank you for pointing that out.
I was reading your audit reporting form, and please enlighten me here, because I read this and I thought, what? Constructing bike lanes along Port Chicago Highway?
Can I ask what page you're looking at, please?
It's the Measure J Local Streets and Roads Maintenance Audit Reporting Form. Teeny tiny letters. I don't have a page number.
It's, the final page, correct?
Right.
This project is actually on the corner of Willow Pass Road and Port Chicago Highway. It's a vacant property, a vacant lot that is in the process to be entitled for multiple family development. And a part of the project is to install frontage improvements that will include sidewalks where there's currently no sidewalk, provide bike lane around that corner, and eliminate the free right turn that I think exists going westbound on Willow Pass Road to Port Chicago Highway northbound. And removing that free right turn will eliminate conflicts with bicyclists, pedestrians trying to make that same movement. So I think that's what that project is. It's not for the parts of Port Chicago Highway that aren't leading to residential development or any other dense urban development or anything like that.
I was also reading further down to conduct pavement maintenance to prolong the life of pavement. So will the county be looking at various different manufacturing of concrete pavement so that you're not coming back in a few years and expending $1.6 million to prolong the life of pavement when there may be material out there that there's no need to do that?
I certainly wouldn't want to speculate on our Public Works Department ability to do that. I can find out for sure if they do seek out other types of material to, maybe last longer for these types of repairs or that type of work. But I would venture to guess that, with technology changing the way it is and always looking for ways to save money, that the Public Works Department certainly does always look for ways to try to upgrade the materials they use so that they can provide better facilities, longer lasting facilities. And then also, staying in compliance with state, regional, federal guidelines for repairing roads and streets.
Okay. The other comment I have on this is the last one, that staff time related to attending meetings, almost $500,000. Is that overtime?
No, we actually don't get overtime. One thing that's unique about Contra Costa County is that we cover the entire county, which is, as you guys know, comprised of 5 subregions, transportation subregions alone. There's WICTAC in West County, Transplant in East County, Transpac for Central County, and SWAT and Tri-Valley Transportation Council for South County. For 2 of those subregions, East County and South County, county staff actually staffs those committees. So we do things like, create the agendas, send out the agenda packets, consult with staff, et cetera, et cetera. So our duties extend a little bit further beyond most other agencies, whereas if we were a city, we would be responsible to just report to and liaison for one subregion. But with the county, because we have these other duties related to committee staffing or whatever the case may be, our time gets stretched out a little bit further.
And for your growth management program, page 4-24, just a comment there on illustrating how the jurisdiction has adequately planned to meet the existing and projected housing needs, etc. In addition to meeting the projected housing needs, along those lines, the consideration is also the needs for school, hospitals, firefighters, community centers, police, transit, and that's all incorporated in that?
Yes.
It didn't say that. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, American Public Works Association, and Concord, I know, as a member of the association, is doing a tremendous amount of testing of various materials to prolong the life of pavements. There was a big project in San Francisco about 4 years ago. There was a project in Martinez last year, and they're trying chopped up tires, all kinds of stuff to get a longer life in the pavement. So there's a lot of that study going on, and they're studying it various climates and various weather conditions. So, and there's results of that coming out. So that's
How that affects the maintenance.
Pardon?
How that affects maintenance.
It reduces it. When you get a good product, it reduces it.
I have a question. On Table C, number 19, what is home sharing program? What does that consist of?
Let me get to the, here's, pardon. Okay, the second one on this list here, okay.
Number 19?
I'm not familiar with that program. I'm not sure. I'd have to consult with the staff in our housing division to get a clear answer on that. We can find out and get back to you guys right away, though.
The reason I'm asking, they just opened up about a month ago in Brentwood, a new housing division called Vista Dorado. And each of the homes, they're large, has a mother-in-law unit within it. In other words, a complete little home within a home. And they start at $900,000. That isn't what this is talking about, is it? Or is it?
Don't think so. Second units or mother-in-law units are regulated by a different part of our ordinance.
This isn't a second unit that I'm talking about. It is built within the home.
Right, they can be built within the home too, according to our ordinance, but I don't think this is what that's addressing. Like I said, I don't want to speculate, and I could find out for sure what this is about.
Would you?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
And get back to the committee.
I've got a question, but first I'm going to start with a little story. Last time I met Jamar, I had a meeting in his office, and I had to bring my son, who was probably a year and a half at the time, and Jamar is very patient as we went through this meeting with Jeremy O'Kirk was there, and Dave Campbell, and my son was drawing his crayons and running around the room. So thank you for that, first off.
Thank you for meeting with us.
The second thing is there's some big projects going on, some nearby. Pardon me. One of them is the Olympic Corridor plan between Lafayette County and then Walnut Creek. A closer one is right here on Treat, somehow connecting Geary over the bridge to Bart. And I'm sure there's numerous other ones in the county. Multi-jurisdiction. Obviously, they're complicated, they're big, but they can be very beneficial for those of us that live nearby. Can you tell us a little bit about the leadership that the county takes? And I don't want to say pushing the cities to move forward with this, but I feel like there's some resistance in Walnut Creek to do some of these things, yet the people that I talk to are very much behind it, and it seems like it's a bit of a juggling act. Can you speak a little bit about that, please?
No, you're absolutely right. The statement you last made is juggling act, and that's absolutely true. Our job is to balance the priorities and wishes of the community, and those spread out across the entire spectrum. Everybody who appreciates bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and those who appreciate, their auto modes. A good example of our coordination and cooperation on a project is right here, the one you just mentioned, the Treat Boulevard 680 project, and we've been working very closely with the city of Walnut Creek to improve which was originally the impetus for this project, improving the 680 overcrossing, which is nearly devoid of any adequate bicycle or pedestrian facilities. And that scope obviously expanded to reach the city of Walnut Creek and then down here by the Iron Horse Trail. So that's one example. Usually most of our projects, the scope of our projects are within the county's boundaries. We don't have too many areas where we collaborate with other city jurisdictions on complete streets projects or anything like that. And then the Olympic Corridor project too. But we've noticed that, we've been able to get pretty good cooperation from other cities on those kinds of projects, especially if the demand is there from the local community. I don't know if that answers your question, but okay.
Other questions? I think that the county, Contra Costa County, does an excellent job in juggling the various projects and addressing various issues that citizens bring to your attention. I'm, for one, very grateful when you do admit you don't know the answer. I think that promotes trust and integrity, and it's very important in a multi-city environment that you work in. So thank you so much for admitting that. It certainly looked good. You look good. So we have a representative here who represents Contra Costa County, and that would be Patricia. So Patricia, we would leave it to you to recommend a motion to have the fundings.
I'm sorry, I move that we accept the proposal.
Do I have a second? Who seconded? Michael?
I did.
Okay. So we have a first and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? So it passes. Thank
Right.
you,
Thank you.
gentlemen. Thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Next item on the agenda are reports, and either on administration, planning, the full board meeting, or the authority special TEP meeting. And I believe, Stephen, you have a report on them?
I have a single sheet double-sided. They're on the table if you don't have a copy. There have been 4 meetings, 1 regular authority board meeting which got very little business done, and 3 special TEP meetings. I am not going to go into a great deal of detail, but I will certainly answer any questions. There were about 5 or 6 sticky wickets in the whole process that were really difficult negotiations. They did last week come up with a plan. Hopefully most people are happy or can live with it. I'm not sure if it's going to get the enthusiastic support of the environmental community, but we will have to wait and see. Of particular interest to this group is the planning for the replacement of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I forget what we're going to call it, but in its essence, it is going to consist of either 7 or 8 members representing specific constituencies. I forget whether there are 1 or 2 labor members. There's a Taxpayers Association member. There are some other, I believe the building industries may be supplying a member. I forgot what the rest are at this point. There will also be 8 public members, 4 of which will be appointed each by the the regional planning committees. The other 4 will be appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So I think either of those will have an application process. I forget whether, I'm not absolutely certain whether the person who is appointed by the RCPC or by the supervisor represented area has to reside in that area or not. We'll have to, I believe there is going to be some geographic representation in that respect. Matt's back there playing bobblehead. The committee will also have a continually broadened remit, in that it will also be examining the financial aspects of the authority's business, much in the way I would presume that the Alameda County Citizens Committee already does. So to have a lot broader responsibilities than this committee has had, we'll have probably a more significant staff support in order to carry out those responsibilities. And we'll certainly be seeing more of the people from the financial side of the House. If you have any questions about specific hot topics on the tip, I'll do my best to answer them.
Is there a calendar or a schedule for this CAC committee replacement?
I have no idea when, if the measure passes, what its effective date would be. Would it be the beginning of the year?
I believe it will be in June of 2017. So it would be sometime in 2017.
So it might be with the start of the 2017 fiscal year?
Exactly. That's what happened with Measure J.
Okay, that would leave this committee functioning for about another year then, as it's currently constituted.
Would that group be in an advisory capacity? I'm trying to, or would they actually have some teeth, so to speak?
I think it would be more an advisory capacity. It would have somewhat of a responsibility to produce I believe, an annual report to the citizens independently of the authority's reporting structure. So it would actually be presenting its conclusions to the citizenry as a whole, if I believe that is the intent.
Yeah, it would have more of an oversight function,
okay.
Especially on the financial side, and it is modeled, as former Chair Smith mentioned, after the Alameda County Transportation And this is all assuming that it does go to the ballot
And passes.
I guess what I'm asking is, and I think, thank you very much. So, I mean, this group have oversight responsibilities, but in an advisory capacity. So, you know, when I hear oversight, I'm thinking that you actually have some serious input, not just advisory. Is that what I'm hearing? That
is the intent.
okay. Thank you.
And also with the Board of Supervisors reviewing applications and appointing the particular interested candidate to represent the citizens, that in fact raises that responsibility to a different level.
So rather than having a representative from every city, you may have one representative representing 4 or 5 cities. Is that what I'm?
Yes, is that right?
Okay.
It would be a citizen committee rather than a citizen representing the city of Lafayette.
In general, if I can just give you my overall view, I'm certainly putting in for the Iron Butt Award, having attended all these meetings. I think it's an incrementally transformative plan. Certainly there were a lot of people that wanted it to be a lot more transformative, but there was a lot of pushback as well. We know that we can't pave our way out of what we're faced with along the major routes. So it will focus more on 2 things. One, better management of the automotive, on the vehicular traffic of our 3 principal freeways. And you're already seeing the work being done on 680 to go to hot lanes. That's also, and of course the ICM is just coming on stream in I-80. A similar plan is being worked on for Highway 4. The other thing is there will be more work on trying to encourage the kind of projects that make it easier for people to move into public transit. I think a project that's probably closest to fruition is autonomous vehicles within the Bishop Ranch Business Park that will essentially be called by push button and carry small amounts of people to 1 or 2 centralized locations where they can meet express buses that will be running essentially between the 2 BART stations, Walnut Creek and Dublin. That's the kind of thing. There is a substantial increase for bikes and trails, not as much as the bike people wanted. The term was extended to 30 years to, make more money available. There's a serious commitment to BART. The first priority would be to help fund 300 more BART cars in addition to the new BART fleet that is already on order. And that is the main thrust. But that is a multi-county effort. It requires ourselves, San Francisco and Alameda County, and MTC to all work together and chip in for this. And so they have essentially 2 presidential election cycles to get her done. Another issue was the growth management issue. The compromise was finally achieved there was to somewhat tighten up the requirements. You know, there is a 30-acre or less rule that a body can extend its urban limit line without going to a vote of the people. That has never been exercised, but there's still some considerable unhappiness about that among the environmental community in particular. So they've added a couple of new findings that need to be done. They've also added restrictions. You can't, become a serial user of this. So that was kind of how that was worked with. A couple of new features: a regional advanced mitigation program will be developed. This will hopefully smooth the way toward getting environmental clearance for projects. Well, actually, I guess be looking at having an inventory of mitigation measures ready to go and thought out, rather than having to deal with it a project at a time. And of course, this will introduce a planning program, a broader planning program for environmental mitigation. I was here attending these meetings when the Habitat Conservation Plan was adopted after a 10-year effort. And I felt that was a really significant piece of good government, in that there's an overall plan for conservation of wildlife habitat. And again, that helps already set the framework for designing the specific mitigations for individual projects and smoothing the way. Because environmental clearance can take 2 or 3 years on a good-sized project. That does add to the time and cost and delay. Some struggles over in East County. One flashpoint was what's called State Route 239 from Brentwood to Tracy. I think language was finally found about that. It is not so much that we're looking at it to support a lot of new development. I mean, that's why we have urban limit lines, to limit that. But it's getting to be a major goods management corridor, and it's getting to be a real problem. As we have improved the Highway 4 bypass, and especially since the I-680, I-4 interchange has been upgraded to a full interchange, truck traffic on that road has increased considerably. And fortunately, Patricia and others have been very instrumental in getting the county to ban truck traffic, at least through downtown Byron. But one of the provisions is for a new Vasco Road to Byron Highway corridor and improved service to the Byron Airport. And that actually has a specific amount of money set aside in this program. But again, it does, I think, a good job of recognizing that we're a very diverse county and making allowances for that. The interests of West County in terms of the balance between roadways and transit is very different than Far East County. So anyway, I'm very hopeful that the polling will be favorable and this will go on the ballot and get passed. Everybody is very cognizant of the fact that there is going to be a lot of tax issues on the November ballot. And at some point, there's some fear that people will just lock up and not want to vote yes on anything. we'll just have to wait and see.
Other comments from committee members?
Yeah, and this has to do with transportation infrastructure and autonomous vehicles. I have coffee once a week in Lafayette at Pete's Coffee with a friend of mine, and he was discussing how difficult it would be for him to catch a bus and go down there from Moraga. And I discussed this with Randy before. The attitude towards autonomous vehicles and giving up that freedom of controlling the vehicle, or the control issue of controlling a vehicle, and the concept of getting into a vehicle with a bunch of other folks without a driver is going to be a hard thing to swallow for folks. Realistically, it's a really good thing and safe thing to do, but psychologically, it's going to be a tough nut to crack. And what I would say is that if we could get the local malls, the shopping centers, even the transit companies to provide a shopping service of autonomous vehicles, as opposed to going from somewhere in your town to the BART station. That's pretty small, and you're not going to have very many riders, but that's my opinion. But if you get Raley's, Lucky's, Winco, and Whole Foods, for example, to provide a 12-person bus with one or two attendants, union attendants, so you keep everybody happy, to help with the groceries, going to and from the front doorstep. If you have them go every 20 minutes on specific routes or computerized programmed routes, you could make the acceptance of autonomous vehicles easier. And I've seen the mess at Whole Foods, because I go there and charge my car every once in a while. And it's nightmarish. If you had a little bus service just for that area, for Lafayette alone, it would knock out half of that parking lot, I'm pretty sure. I think it's a lot more viable than having just a little bus route going around to and from the BART station.
So are you comparing that to what the city of Walnut Creek currently provides as a free shuttle, envisioning that would be an autonomous type of transportation instead of being driven by a driver? Sure.
But the difference would be that Raley's or Lucky's has union employees. That would satisfy the Central Labor Council, all the transit driver unions, and the state laws. And so and not only that, but it would be Raley's, or it would be Lucky's, or it would be Whole Foods you could arrange it so that they could provide the service. I'm not sure how that could be played out, but it could be some MOU. I don't care. I don't know. But I would certainly use it. There's one thing I do hate is getting out into the car and running off to go do a honeydew, do groceries and so forth. But I know that's horrible. But still, it's to me, that is more doable than just trying to get to a BART station or a bus station.
Other comments?
I suspect, and it's only a feeling, that we may see implementation of autonomous vehicles within very limited areas before we see the people ready to accept autonomous vehicles that will self-drive themselves everywhere.
I have a few comments. Number one, I want to thank Stephen for his 3 years serving as chair. I think you did a great job. Thank you so much. You deserve a round of applause. You've always provided us with brief minutes on the different meetings you've attended. And what award is that? The Iron Butt Award? Okay, I hope you get it.
Boy, those, there was one went from 6 until just before 11 o'clock. That was grim. People were really reeling with the feeling on that.
So I want to also thank all the committee members for your vote of confidence. Thank you for voting me chair. I sincerely appreciate it. I look forward to this year, and to next year. We'll see what that brings. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you in the meetings, and certainly to provide any type of gap in information that we might have. We also have our representative from Contra Costa County, Patricia, gave me a flyer this evening on Vision to Reality. The Vision to Reality is the vision of building BART. So I am going to ask her to please, yes, hand out copies of that. And I teach the history of BART at work, and so I will be bringing in a booklet so that you know how that entire system was built and how it almost didn't pass. I think it'd be great for this group to know. Also to Millard, to answer your question, our representative from Antioch, I think that if this proposal passes and this particular committee disbands and we then regroup as a whole different committee, I think at least my sense about it is that, yes, it will have a lot more teeth. There's an opportunity then to have reviews. I don't look at it as oversight. I look at it as reviews, especially of the financials. So when they are presented, we would be able to ask some really tough questions, and we would get answers regarding what our concerns are. So rather than jumping forward, I will wait to see if it passes. However, if it does pass, I would like for people to seriously consider submitting their application to serve on that new committee. You have a comment?
I did. I basically asked because if it's something that we can get behind and start talking to our constituents from the various cities. Again, as our former chair said, there's a lot of things coming up on this year's election, and we have to get a jump on things that are very important. And when I hear the word oversight, I think accountability. Even with this particular advisory committee, a lot of things come up. We asked for a lot of information from last year. Some of it we didn't get back, you know. So when you have oversight, there's accountability, and that's what I want to see. That's one of the reasons I joined or I accepted the appointment to this group, and I've been very pleased. And let me also say congratulations to you for
thank you.
taking on the challenge of being our chair.
With
Our
Mike
past chair has done a great job.
With Mike by my side. Stephen?
Each city council and the county board of supervisors will be formally considering this transportation expenditure plan probably within the next month. So, and there are specific requirements. Can have memorized them, but I believe the county has to approve, a majority of the cities have to approve, representing a majority of the population. So that's the next step, is gaining the support of the 19 entities. And then I believe EMC Research is probably already about ready to roll out the polling pretty quickly now. And yeah, the schedule calls for the report on the polling to be presented to the June Authority Board meeting. because I believe it's sometime in August is the deadline to submit the measure to the vote.
Thank you. And we looked at future agenda items. Last time we met, we had asked to invite the chair for the Alameda Advisory Committee. So I think that's still a request for us to come and speak to our group. Any other suggestions on who should come to our group to speak? If you think of any, please forward that request directly to Diane. And with that, I will formally close our meeting this evening.